Hello. Just want to go over a few things. I had a bunch of questions about the programming. Not bad questions, good questions, and maybe I'll just kind of point some things out to make it a little bit more apparent to why we're doing certain things and why you should do them. Anyways, I'm going to start it off real quickly. Try to make this as basic as I can and not real nerdy so I don't lose you. But anyways, there's a whole lot of different types of strength that we're trying to hit in your programming. And I'm just going to go over them and why. So typically there's we look at the force curve, and I'm going to go over that on a graph here with you shortly. So basically, hopefully you can read that. Yeah, nice little paper and marker, great. And then go over the different types of strength and why we're mixing it up with some of the different exercises. So you're going to start off with pretty much your maximal strength, or should I say absolute strength, okay? And that's going to be the top of that force curve. And what I mean by that absolute strength is that, that's typically a place where none of us ever go, where you're basically all out effort and you're tearing muscles and everything to do it. It's just a lot of electricity, basically all adrenaline. If you heard of stories of, someone picking up a car because a kid's trapped under it, or just freak things of nature that your body can physically do. It's just you have to go to that crazy place, and it's usually in those situations. So that's absolute strength, the absolute amount that your body can handle before it breaks, which typically we don't get to. But that's at the top of that force curve. So absolute strength would be here, okay? And then you go to maximal strength, and that is your basically what I would say like your voluntary strength, or basically what you can do for a PR. That's your 1 rep max, where the bar is moving really slow on the bench, or the squat's kind of really slow, or the deadlift, there's a lot of us start shaking and like leaves and you can barely get the bar up. That would be your maximal strength. And that's up high on that force curve also, okay? So that would be up here also, up towards the top. Explosive strength would be the next one. That's where we kind of do, like, obviously in CrossFit, more doing box jumps. You will start seeing some of those things added into our Power Club. I don't do it much because a lot of you do CrossFit, and it is a very important part. The explosive strength is huge. That goes more towards, towards the velocity part, or in between, where that explosive strength is. It's very important to work on that. That's where I kind of look at more like, making you very athletic and being able to put a lot of velocity in the bar. So if you guys wonder why we do like the speed bench, the speed squats, the pause squats, those types of things where we're flying off the chest with the bench. A lot of those dynamic days that you guys have been doing, I know they're light, but there is an importance to it, and we'll get into that later yet. But the explosive strength is huge. Being able to create a lot of force very quickly with your body weight is very important. So that's kind of why we added those things in there, because that has a big role in this strength curve and the force and velocity chart, okay? Starting strength would be the next one. That's kind of where you look at, I'd say your overall athleticism, where you start, being very athletic. A good example would be like coming out of starting blocks of a sprint for a 100-yard dash, or something in track and field, or even like when I used to throw the shot put, you're be able to change directions very quickly and very explosively. And that's very important. Hence why we do a lot of that also in CrossFit, but also you can add that into your own thing. You don't have to call it CrossFit if you don't want to call it CrossFit and not do CrossFit, but those things are important to add in, whether it's throwing med balls, weighted med balls. I did a lot of stuff with Amy with that, where it's just explosive strength, but working on the starting strength of being able to start at a dead stop and explode very quickly. It's very important with a barbell as you get moving with strength. That starting strength becomes very, very important. A lot of the best lifters I've seen, they can change direction like that. And that bar velocity is so fast, and it's very important for a carryover in weight. The slower that bar moves, the more difficult it is going to be to move it. A great example would be Olympic lifting that we do. It's great for starting strength. Being able to generate a shit ton of power and force into that bar to move it quickly. So that starting strength has a lot to do with like our pause presses that we do, the pause benching, the box squatting with a pause, those types of things you'll see as we add those in. Hopefully this is all making sense. It makes more sense to you why we're working on all these different things, because it all plays a role. Then at the end of it, you have your relative strength, which is really at the bottom of the velocity curve. That basically has to do with like your body weight. I always find it interesting, people, and I'm glad we changed the board because we added different things to the board, and I guess this will explain the relative strength part of it a little bit more. You have somebody that maybe weighs 100 pounds, and let's say they squat 300, and then all of a sudden you have a 200-pound person squatting 300. I guarantee the 100-pound person has a better vertical leap, probably more explosive strength and better starting strength. Which means they're a better athlete overall and probably can do a lot better on their Wilks, or their not Wilks, whatever score it is now, and that's the way it should be. If you got a smaller person being able to lift that larger weight, they definitely have a lot higher relative strength, and that's super important because that's showing, like we've shown here in the force and velocity curve, the importance of it. Kind of like Taylor just kind of rings in my head here, and a couple of the young girls that are real small, they're able to lift, their body weights, and that's pretty impressive to begin with, but that's a great example of relative strength. It's very important, and that's what you want to work on. So in this whole curve here that you have, there's this gray area in the middle, basically here, that circle. And that's where we're putting all this together to focus on these things, to improve all of you guys' lifts and movements, because all of us in this little area here in the middle are different. And I know I've talked to you, several of you, numerously, some of you personal training me, there's things that we do directly to improve in that gray area because there is some things that we lack. Some of us lack more relative strength. Some of us lack more explosive strength. Some of us don't hit our maximum voluntary strength enough to improve the maximum voluntary strength. So that big gray area in here is what we focus on. Hence why we go back to the programming that I'm doing. You notice we have changed things up quite a bit to try to hit all these areas for all of you. Even though some of you are really good at some of them and and probably maybe do them a little too much, we changed it up enough to where everybody can improve on all of these parts to make you a better lifter overall. I hope that makes some sense. Maybe not, and it's probably long-winded, but hope it made sense. And if you want more info or want me to go over more things, let me know, because I can help.